Going with technology here. Oh boy. This is kind of, like I said, a little bit of a continuation of what we talked about on Tuesday. This Hollywood-backed bill would give government power to block websites. Court order to protect creativity could quietly become the internet's kill switch. Oh boy. Lawmakers. Anybody see Judge Dredd? Law? I am the law. Sorry. Lawmakers in Washington are once again attempting to give the United States a legal pathway to block websites, a power the federal government has never officially held on a broad scale. They've had the power to take stuff down here and there individually, but this is something that could give them the kill switch for all websites. The latest push comes in the form of the Block Bad Electronic Art and Recording Distributors Act, better known as Blockbeard. I kid you not. Introduced in the Senate by Thom Tillis, Chris Coons, Marsha Blackburn, and Adam Schiff. Hey, everybody loves Adam Schiff, right? On its face, the bill targets foreign websites accused of piracy, but the mechanism it creates would establish something far more significant. A formal court-approved process that could be used to make entire websites vanish from the American internet. Under the proposal, copyright owners could go to federal court to have a site labeled a foreign digital piracy site. You guys remember last year when we were talking about the TikTok bill? You guys remember that thing? And how we went through it and I showed that there was absolutely no mention of TikTok in the TikTok bill. What it was designed to be was to have the ability to enable domestic people, individuals, us, and designate them as foreign adversaries so they can imprison and fine them. You guys remember that? They're kind of doing the same thing with this, where if there's something that's American-centered, something that's based in America, this would allow them to go and designate them a foreign entity, and then this bill would fall underneath it. This is how they like to do it. This allows them to go around law stuff, the whole law system, and take down domestic groups. But they're doing it under the guise of foreign and national security. If successful, the court could then order U.S. service providers, internet service providers, to block access to that site. This is key. The reach is broad. The term service provider here mirrors the broad definition in the DMCA, potentially covering everything from ISPs, internet service providers, and search engines to social media platforms and perhaps even VPNs. So when I talked about this stuff on Tuesday, there's a lot of people asking how on earth could they block VPNs? There's no way that they could block VPNs. VPNs work through ISPs. And so if an ISP is getting leaned on and is forced to, it can terminate the ability for anybody to access a VPN. So something like we see going on in the UK right now, the increase of VPN usage is skyrocketing. And if they so want to, they can enact something over there which would have all internet service providers block access to those VPNs, which means people can't use them to get around the thing anymore. You have a tricky part there because I just saw a report today that shows that pretty much the majority of parliament members, those in the UK parliament, are having to use VPNs now in order to get around their own bill, which they installed, which I just laughed and laughed and laughed because that's hilarious to me. We also got stuff coming out from Australia, how they're going to make it so any kid under the age of 16 can't access YouTube anymore, which has to do with IDs on that. We've talked about all the bills over here in the United States. The COSA bill we talked about on Tuesday. There's the one that's the Screen Act, which is making its way through, which is identical to the COSA bill. but everybody's focusing on one while the other one is starting to make its way through, which again, when one hand is flashing over here, what's going on in the other hand type of thing. And so this is what they're doing. Europe is also introducing this to all of Europe, not just the UK. All of Europe is starting to introduce this stuff now. So Europe itself is starting to go down. And so it's through the ISPs. That's how they can block this stuff. And so what they're talking about with this bill is not going to the websites themselves saying you have to shut down. It's going to the ISPs saying shut them down. And so that's how they're able to do it. This is another connection between government and technocrats that's going to allow them to move forward in this thing as well. There's also another report that I've seen coming out where I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't know. But giant swaths of archived websites from the Wayback Machine are disappearing. They're just gone. And more websites are starting to disappear. I don't know if they got to Internet Archive and are telling them to do this. I don't know exactly how that's happening or what's going on with that, but I'm letting you guys know that they're now starting to wipe out a lot of the stuff, a lot of the archived websites that you can find at the Wayback Machine. And so we're starting to lose a lot of information. We're starting to lose a lot of evidence. Things are starting to get a little dark in the internet realm of things. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Proponents say, we continue with this, proponents say that this is about protecting the entertainment industry. Right. In reality, it's about setting a precedent. Once the government has a tool to block certain sites, history shows the definition of unacceptable content can expand. Piracy today could easily become something else tomorrow. The ramifications go beyond the music and movie business. If courts can order an ISP to take a site to make a site disappear from view, the same logic could eventually apply to other types of content deemed problematic. And because the bill has no public transparency requirements, the public could be kept entirely in the dark about which sites are blocked, why they're blocked, or how long the blocks remain in place. Forever. They're not going to block a website and then bring it back. If they block the site, it's gone. That's just how the government works. You've heard the term, you give an inch, they take a mile, or you negotiate a deal for a certain period. Remember when 2 weeks all of a sudden became 2 years? You don't get it back. If you give it to them, you don't get it back. That's how it works. And so on and so forth. It goes over like DMCA and stuff like that, which DMCA is something I've had to deal with as well, where it's the dumbest thing ever because if somebody files a DMCA content, which is basically saying, I own the content and I don't want this person to use it, it removes your video on here on YouTube. It removes your video. And then without even asking you any questions, even if it falls under the right laws and stuff, Creative Commons and stuff like that, they'll just remove it. And then you have to try and counter it and say, I have the ability to do this. Well, how that works is it gets sent to the same person who said, I don't want you to use that content, even if they don't own that content, and they can reject it, which means your stuff's gone. So you could have videos taken down by people who don't even own the content claiming that they do, and you can't do anything about it. And so this bill basically works off that same system. And that's what they want to introduce for entire websites. Poof. Gone. It's very fascinating. The direction that we're seeing, how fast we are moving when it comes to what's going on in the digital realm of things. And you guys notice, it's not just here and there. It's all around the world, all at once. Lockstep. They're moving in lockstep. It's exciting. It's exciting times. I mean, Clearly, we don't want to see this stuff happening. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to see this stuff happening. But at the same time, we should be excited. Because just one step closer, yeah, there's nothing in scripture that says, well, yeah, there's going to come a time. You know, it's not like John wrote that in the book. It said, there's going to come a time when the governments will tell ISPs to remove websites from the internet. You know, that's not written in there. But what we do know is this is just another step closer to building this full-scale one-world system of physical and spiritual control of what we got going on. Again, this is not just a physical thing. This is not something that we can fight back against. As much as people like to get their pitchforks and torches ready, we can't fight against this. But it's just another step. It's exciting because as we get closer to this, we can feel it. We can feel the words of prophecy come alive, are getting ready to come alive. Again, this isn't prophecy unfolding, but it's a stepping stone towards prophecy that will eventually unfold. And we're not going to be here for that. And it's going to be amazing because we're going to be chilling up in the mezzanine.